hold on to your hats. There are only 25 days to go until the end of this US presidential election cycle. Voters will go to the polls on the 5th of November, so we're almost there. The candidates and their political supporters are, of course, out and about, furiously campaigning, trying to drum up as much support as they can get because it is close. And there's been a bit of comment, though, around what former President Obama had to say last night, Thursday night, in the state of Pennsylvania, quite a key state in this election. He said it was, quote, not acceptable for black men to support Donald Trump over Kamala Harris. And to all men, he said, quote, it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president, and you're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that. Well, here to discuss this, Dr. Tim Golden, who's a lawyer and professor in philosophy at Whitman College, and Maroc, who is host of the Soulaan Podcast, which focuses on issues facing black Americans. Welcome to you both. Thanks for making time. Maroc, if I can start with you, how does this sit with you? If you are of this race or this gender, it is not acceptable for you to vote for this candidate, Obama says.
Well, yes, Obama's not one to speak much. I'm from Pennsylvania myself, Philadelphia. Obama signed in the blue law. He has pledged civil asset forfeiture, which disproportionately affects black Americans, or Soulaan. He did nothing to give empty speeches after Trayvon Martin's trial. And that same year, he enforced the blue law, which happened in 2013. He has no black agenda, no foundational black American or Soulaan protections. The Democrats are desperate, and this desperation is noted, but it's not really being recognized because it's not coming with any tangibles we have here. They want our vote, but we can't really endorse things without any tangibles. We're just tired of all of these symbolic gestures and these panderings with these statues and Kamala's bathtub collard green recipes.
Dr. Tim?
Yes, so like Maroc, I too am originally from Philadelphia. I live on the west coast of the United States. And when I heard President Obama's remarks, I thought to myself that they were wrong in tone, but they were right in spirit. And what I mean by that is it comes off as very condescending to have your voting preferences condemned by someone who is sort of lecturing to you. So in that sense, I agree with Maroc. However, I would disagree insofar as I thought the urgency and the spirit of Obama's remarks was a good one, because for me, as a black man, and as a black man who has litigated in the criminal justice system as a criminal defense lawyer representing black men and women from our community, in order for Donald Trump to even think about getting my vote, the first thing he has to do is apologize to the Central Park Five. And the second thing he has to do, but for those who are listening that may not know who they are, the Central Park Five were 5 black men who in the late 1980s were arrested and charged and convicted of a rape and murder of a white woman in Central Park that they did not commit. DNA evidence later exonerated these 5 young men. One of them is now a city official in New York. And despite their exoneration, Donald Trump refuses to apologize to them. And to me, that's a threshold requirement if you expect me to vote for you. So he hasn't done that. And to me, that's deeply problematic.
Yes. And it's a slightly different question, that, isn't it, over whether, if you are a black man, you would want to vote for Donald Trump. But it's another thing to have someone say it is not acceptable for you to do that. Maroc, do you think that this might push people in the other way? Barack Obama obviously wants people to vote for the Democratic candidate, but do you think this will do more damage than good?
I don't think it's going to do any more damage, but we're just not on the Obama train as much as he is in that fantasy. A lot of black Americans have noted that he hasn't not done anything for the black community or for us as Soulaan. He has just been off on the wayside and hasn't really given us any type of tangibles, as I recognize. The Democrats in general have been noted to, treat our own existence as like an all lives matter or a lift all program. Kamala herself is advocating for the Freedmen's Bureau to be about just about anybody. It's not about black Americans anymore. So we are no longer allowing ourselves to be exploited as hidden figures of our own American history.
Dr. Tim.
Yeah, I get that. Except there's one problem, which is Barack Obama's not running for president, right? Kamala Harris is running for president. And for me, when I look at things that Obama's lasting legacy that has helped the black community tremendously is healthcare, right? Over 40 million Americans have healthcare that didn't have it before. And a lot of those Americans come from the black community. So as president, you have to be the president of the entire country. You can't be a president who's committed to a sort of black nationalist agenda, because black nationalism has a very low ceiling. It works well at the grassroots and community level, but when you start talking about national politics, you need someone who has public policy initiatives that are broad enough in order to cover our community. And I think the major one that Obama had that was successful, that has sort of helped the black community, is national health care. That said, again, he's not running for president. So I'm less concerned about what his policies were and what the Democrats are doing. I'm not suggesting that the Democratic Party is perfect, but here's my point. If you think the Democrats are that bad, what in the world would make you think that Donald Trump's policies toward the black community would be any better? I still have yet to hear any policy articulation from Trump that would benefit the black community.
And before we hear from Maroc on that, but I just wonder what you make of the current situation then, Dr. Tim, which is that, well, according to the National Association for the Advancement of Coloured People, in September, they did some research suggested that 1 in 4 black people under 50 said that they would support Trump. Recent polls have shown that Harris's levels of support are lower amongst black voters, and black men in particular, compared to Joe Biden in 2020. If you find it so incredulous that they would back Trump, what do you think of the fact that lots of them are?
Well, it's not incredulous. I don't doubt that black men are backing Trump. To me, I have trouble understanding the logic, right? If you think the Democrats are bad, since when has the Republican Party been about policies that positively affect the black community? Here's an example. According to the Washington Post, 96% of the people killed by police from 2015 to 2019 were black men. And 96% of the black people killed during that time frame were black men. And yet Donald Trump has routinely supported stop and frisk, which is a highly militarized policy that exacerbates that problem. So I'm trying to figure out, where are the policies other than being tired of Democrats? I get it.
Yeah.
I get you're tired of the Democrats, but does that mean that Donald Trump would do better? I don't think so.
Maroc, what would you make to that point? That, you know, the Democrats might not be perfect on that front, but would you not rather have them than the Republicans, as Dr. Tim's suggesting?
I mean, let's be clear. Neither party is perfect. Neither party is speaking for real tangibles for Soulaan, for black Americans. But what the Republicans are doing in this instance is that they're giving out, to some degree, what we like to say is like consolation prizes. Immigration, for one example, is one of the key things that is harming black Americans. And I don't think, and I take stride in every black American up in Chicago or any of these other in New York City that are speaking out and saying that these incoming migrants are hurting their community and have an effect on their livelihood. We have to take that into stride. I'm not saying that Trump and his administration is absolutely perfect, but we have to make sure that we aren't just voting blue no matter who.
Yeah.
That is not something that we are allowing ourselves to be exploited around any longer.
We are out of time, I'm afraid, but good to talk to you both. Thank you for making time for us. Maroc, host of the Soulaan Podcast, and Dr. Tim Golden, lawyer and professor of philosophy at Whitman College. 25 days still left to debate all of this before the US presidential election. You're listening to OS on the BBC with me, Luke Jones.